Hello, dear friends. Once again, your host, Wonderful Banerjee. I am present in the channel that is Hospitality Education PPT with another very important part of our Understanding Meat series. And today we are going to discuss thoroughly about art of grilling steaks. This session will be quite interesting, I'm very sure. And there are different tricks of the trade that we are going to discuss out here so that you can get the best understanding of the subject and also you can apply that knowledge during your practical working area whenever you get the opportunity, and accordingly if you follow you'll get the best result out of it. Whenever we say art of grilling, art really it is an art because science is there. How tactfully, how organized way you are applying those science and utilizing the facility of the science or advantage of the science into the cooking process, that is the art you are going to develop it. So without wasting further time, I proceed to the next, that is welcoming you to the hospitality channel. Fine. Let us first understand what are the things we are going to discuss today in this particular session. That is the agenda of this session. First one, we'll once again just do some recapitulations of marbling of meat. That is very important. Then selecting the right meat for grilling. You cannot just grill any kind of meat. You need to select a specific quality of meat so that it will facilitate in the grilling process. Third thing is preparing the meat before grilling. It is not like that. You just pick up choose the meat and then put it on a griller. You need to do something. Some pre-preparation is required for the grilling process. So that you need to do. And then exactly we are going to discuss about the relationship between the cooking time and temperature because it plays an important role for getting the best result out of grilling the steaks. This cooking time and temperature already we have discussed in our science of cooking lesson that you can refer back. But today in this session also I will produce some glimpse of it so that your understanding will be much more clear and transparent. Okay, and then we are going to discuss about marinating and different types, how the meat will be marinated, and what are the different types of marinades we can use, what are the style of using marinades, that also we are going to discuss out here, and then exactly the components of acidic marinade, what are the basic components we require for a particular type of marinade that is known as the acidic marinade, that also we are going to discuss. Then other varieties of marinades we are going to discuss on that. And finally, preparing the grill. The meat will be ultimately grilled on a griller. Now you should also know the how the griller should be prepared. That is also another one technicalities of entire cooking of grilling of steaks. So that we should know, should have a very fair and thorough idea about the preparation of grill, and then how to grill, of course that is a part of it, and then science of grilling. Once we know the science of grilling, then making of steaks through grilling process will be much easier for you. So that's why it is very very important. And then different doneness level of steak we are going to discuss with their physical appearance, and that is our last topic. Again, to subtopics we are going to touch up. Doneness means to what level the steak should be cooked, because steak is always cooked with by the preference of the guest. taste will tell you that how their steak should be grilled, and you are going to comply accordingly. So really, through the agenda process, you know that they are having different aspects of grilling a steak, and before you take up the challenge, you should know your theory and practical knowledge is sufficient enough so that you can perform in a most skillful way. Okay, so let us proceed first about the marbling of meat. What is the marbling of meat? Already we have discussed that marbling is the white flakes of intramuscular fat in meat, most notably red meat that we get to see. The fat in lean muscle creates a marble pattern, hence the name. The name is given because of this. If you see the image, you will find out that here you can see this deposition of different layers of fat, which is known as the intramuscular fat, which is known as the marbling of meat because of their nature. This is because of their appearance. It is known as a marbling of meat. Okay, and then why marbling is very important, that also we are going to discuss. When cooking, marbling adds flavor and juiciness as the fat melts into the steak. Try to understand that whenever you are applying heat for cooking purposes on these particular meat, what will happen? As the heat will penetrate, these intramuscular fat will start melting, and whenever it will melt, it will pass to the meat. The meat will remain juicy and it will also develop the flavor. So that is the advantage we want to get out of this marbling of meat. Fat is far more tender than muscle fiber in a steak. As a result, marbling adds tenderness, which is a preferable mouthfeel. Whenever you put it in your mouth, you get a mouthfeel. Why you get that mouthfeel? Best quality mouthfeel, as because of the internal fat or intramuscular fat. What happens to that? Because of the heat, it melts and keep the meat moist and also develop the flavor, and natural juices will be retained, not evaporated in the fat. Okay, so that is why marbling of meat is very, very important. Fine, I think it is clear in your mind now. Now, choose the right meat. How to select the right meat? There are different aspects. First one, of course, the tenderness. Which meat will be ideal for making a steak, that we should know. It is a very crucial attribute to look for in a steak, as it affects the overall texture and mouthfeel of the cooked meat. So it is very obvious to find out the right quality meat, which one will be tender. The most tender steaks are those that come from less exercised muscle, such as the tenderloin or ribeye. In our previous session, we have thoroughly discussed about tenderloin, undercut, or beef fillet, and also different ribeye eyes. We have discussed porterhouse and T-bone steaks. So those are the areas. If you don't remember that, you can easily refer back the previous video in your free time. So it will be much more transparent in your mind. So we cannot just prepare the steak with any meat. We have to select a tender meat. From where the tender meat will be available, especially for the beef, tenderloin or ribeye. These cuts are known for their tenderness and melt in your mouth quality when cooked properly. So as a chef, it is your prime duty to find out a tender meat from tenderloin or ribeye that is ideal for grilling a steak. Number two, that is marbling. Already we have discussed. We need to have a meat which has got good marbling inside, so that the meat will remain juicy and soft and with lots of flavor. Fair enough. Number three, that is the thickness. This is very important. Thickness of the steak, typically it should be 1 inch to 1.5 inches. are ideal for grilling as they allow for a better shear. Shear means sealing of the meat from outside in presence of heat, which will ultimately facilitate in bleeding out the internal juices into the pan. Try to imagine in this point, at this point, that once the meat is getting cooked in a pan and somehow the internal juices are easily coming out from the meat, what will happen to the meat? Meat will remain dry, isn't it? So naturally that won't be enjoyed fully. So what we require? We first of all require a tender meat, which is available from tenderloin or ribeye. We also select the meat which has got good marbling and also the thickness between 1 to 1.5 so that it can be sheared with a purpose that the internal juices can be retained maximum inside, which will ensure the middle remains cooked to the desired doneness. Clear? So that you are going to do tenderness, marbling and thickness. These are very three important parameters. And then preparing the meat before grilling. First one, trimming of excess fat. Once you select the meat from the tenderloin or ribeye, then you get it trimmed properly so that excess fat is not there. While fat can add flavor to the meat, too much of fat can cause flare-ups on the grill and result in a greasy finished product, which we don't want. So we have to remove the excess of fat surrounding the meat. Only we are interested about the fat which is there as a marbling of meat inside. So that will melt, that will make the meat most juicy and it will not become dry and it will have a better mouthfeel. So trimming of fat, excess fat is mandatory while preparing the meat before grilling. Second thing is very important, bringing the steak to room temperature. So maybe it happens that you are fabricating the meat and during the time you are putting it in the refrigerator for better storage. So it is a cold meat. Before you go for cooking the steak, you need to bring them in a room temperature. So bring the steak to room temperature. How we can do that? By simply taking it out and keep it outside in the kitchen. This allows the steak to cook more evenly and helps to prevent overcooking. If the meat is very frozen, so what will happen? It will affect adversely on the heat you are applying. So naturally, it will prevent you to get the exact cooking stage of the steak, or it will become overcooking. So to prevent these problems, you need to bring the steak from the refrigerator to the room temperature if it is kept in the refrigerator. To bring a steak to room temperature, simply remove it from the refrigerator and let it sit at room temperature for about 30 minutes before grilling. So it is very simple, clear in our mind. Third one is marinating or sizzling the steak before grilling. What is this? It involves soaking the steak in a mixture of ingredients such as oil, acid. Acid can be either vinegar of different kinds, lemon juice, subject to your preparation style, and seasonings. Seasonings, salt, pepper, maybe herbs sometimes, for a period of time before grilling, for a specific period of time. That also I will discuss. This can help to tenderize the meat. What is the facility of marinating? Marinating will definitely, first of all, it will act as a kind of preservative. Second thing, it will tenderize the meat because it will get infused with the flavor of the meat. And what does it mean by seasoning? Seasoning the steak involves rubbing it with a mixture of spice such as salt, pepper, and any other desired seasonings just prior to the grill. So we need to do marinating or seasoning before we go for actual cooking or grilling on the steak. So what is to be done? as preparation, trimming of excess fat, bringing the steak in the room temperature by keeping it in the kitchen in the open area for around 30 minutes, subject to the frozenness, internal temperature of the meat, and then, of course, marinating it for a specific period of time. Marinating can be, will have a very clear discussion on the marinating process, and seasoning means rubbing the steak with salt, pepper, and other dessert seasonings as per the recipe just prior to grilling. That is known as marinating. So these three things are very, very important and mandatory before you go for grilling steaks. Clear? Let's proceed to the next. Cooking time. This already we have discussed in our previous lesson. Long time back we have done that. You can search in the channel. That is Science of Cooking. In that we have discussed. Now today also it is very important to know about the cooking time for the steak. Now cooking time are affected by the different factors. It depends on what? First one, the temperature of the cooking medium through which the heat passes, the temperature of the cooking medium, that is very important. Another factor is the speed of the heat transfer. The speed of the heat transfer. What is the speed of the transfer of heat? How fast is moved, or how slow, or moderately slow, or medium. It all depends. Cooking time. Then the size, the thickness, the density of the meat, the moisture content of the meat, and the initial temperature of your grilling machine or the pan. So all these factors having a direct relationship with the cooking time. Now we'll try to represent it in terms of some graphical representations. If you see this box, you'll find that here around the x-axis we are having indicating what? Temperature. In this half we are is indicating the temperature. It is starting from low going towards high. And another half of the box is indicating the thickness and cooking time of the steak. Thickness of the steak and cooking time. And it is starting from thick to thin. Okay, that is a calibration. Now let us consider two extreme points. One is this. Suppose at this point there are 2 points we are having. Now at the first point, if you see here, this arrow is indicating the thickness of the meat. And in compared to the temperature this side, you'll see the temperature. That means one conclusion we can draw, when the thickness of the meat is more, we require a low temperature. And what will happen? When thickness is more, cooking time is also more, because this arrow is indicating both the thickness and cooking time, because you are applying low temperature. If you go to the extreme, another point to make our understanding very clear. Now if at this point the thickness of the meat is very low, less, then you can see that the temperature is more. So whenever you are having a very thin meat, thin steak rather, and you are applying maximum heat on that, and automatically your cooking time will be less. Understand? So I repeat once again that if you are taking a very thick meat, your temperature should be in the lower side, and automatically your cooking time will be more. And if you are taking a thin steak, then your temperature should be in the higher side and your cooking time will be less. That is the graphical representations should be installed in our mind. I believe with this simple picture it is very clear in our mind now. Okay, next we'll talk about marinating. What is marinating? Let us clarify once again. A flavored liquid, usually acidic, cooked or uncooked, it can be cooked or uncooked, in which several ingredients such as meat, offal, game, fish, or vegetables are steeped for varying length of time. Very clear? Okay. What is the process? The process of soaking is known as marinating. Its principal purpose is to flavor the food, but it also makes certain meats more tender by softening the fibers and adding moisture. So that is the purpose. It will soften the fiber and it will add on moisture. Automatically the flavor will be developed. That is the process and purpose. Now from where this word is come? The word is ultimately derived from the Latin word marinus. Within bracket it is marine, referring to the sea water or brine that was used for preserving foods in ancient days. So when we say marinating, that means somewhere we are indicating the word that is preserving of meat. Now obviously whenever you are preserving the meat for some time, that is mainly for the to retain the quality. At the same time, you are adding some spices, some other liquids like acidic liquids. Why? To retain, to develop the flavor and to retain the quality. Okay? And the word is coming from the Latin word marinus or marine. Clear? Which means sea water. Then what are the main key takeaways from this concept? Marination involves using a seasoned or flavored acidic liquid. That is one takeaway. Then is different types of marinades are used depending on the food because we cannot use same marinades for the meat or different kind of vegetables. Neither for all kinds of meat the same marinades. It will specifically it will change as per the flavor of the meat. Fine. Marination duration and the choice of marinade depend on the type of food. Duration. Beef we know is a tough quality meat. Lamb, there also are different strains of the meat. Then poultry, different kind of poultry are there. So duration of marination will also change accordingly. And also the choice of marinades. There are different kind of international cuisines. Maybe in India we are having also different regional cuisines. So accordingly the spices will vary and the ingredients will vary. Marination is a pre-cooking process that simplifies the overall cooking method. And this marination is never done after cooking. It is a pre-cooking process that simplifies the overall cooking method. Clear? That is what we call as a marinating. Now we'll think about the types of marinade. What are the types? There are three types available. Broadly, I'm talking about from the international aspect. One is acidic marinade, other one is dairy marinade, and third one is enzyme marinade. And we'll clarify one by one. What is acidic marinade? This type of marinade includes various juices like citrus, tomato, highly acidic juices, wine, or vinegar. So these are the acidic ingredients can be placed. The acid works, how it works? To tenderize the protein. But it is important to be cautious and not marinate the meat for too long, as it can cause the meat to tighten. It can also affect that and the worst way. Because if you are marinating the meat in acidic medium for a too long time, it will have the adverse effect because of the pH level of the meat and meat will become tough. So it is very important to know about the specific time for the marinade. Okay, that is about the acidic marinade. What is dairy marinade? Though not accepted by many, some chefs and experts believe that Dairy products like yogurt and buttermilk being acidic help break down the food and make the meat more tender. Okay, that is basically dairy means it has got a touch of dairy products. The calcium in these products also activates the enzyme in the meat. That is why some chefs they prefer the dairy marinade also, and region to region it also varies. Enzyme marinade, certain fruits like papaya, kiwi, and pineapple contain enzymes that make the meat tender and succulent. Especially in our Indian cuisine, if you see, whenever you are marinating, we are using meat for biryani, we do use some kind of papaya paste because papaya has got the enzyme, pepin, which will help in tenderizing the meat and making the meat more succulent. So enzyme marinade is also there. What are the enzymes? Bromelain or bromelain and papain found in pineapple and papaya respectively, and are the chemicals that break down the meat tissue. So bromelain present in pineapple and papain present in papaya will break down the meat tissues, and as a result meat will become soft and tender. Okay, so these are the three different types of marinades we can get. Now we'll go for a little detailing about the acidic marinade. What are the components? Number one, of course, acidic marinade means some acids that includes citrus juices, wine or vinegar. Wine can be white wine or red wine. Number two is the flavoring agents, mostly the herbs and spices. And third is oil, that is olive oil and sesame oil. Okay, so these are the three major components of the acidic marinade. What are the marinade varieties? Number one, wet marinating. This involves placing the meat in a flavorful liquid to soften it and prevent it from going bad. Wet marinating can only be done for a short period of time and needs to be placed in the fridge. That means once you prepare the meat, then you are going to marinate it. And if you are using a wet marinade, after putting it in the wet marinade liquid, you put the entire thing in the refrigerator. Fine. Adding salt in a wet marinade should be avoided as it can suck out the natural juices out of the meat card. What is this? What is the property of salt? Salt property is hydrophilic. Hydrophilic means it attracts the moisture. If you add salt in the wet marinade, what will happen? Because of the presence of salt, the internal moisture of the meat will start coming out and mixing up with the salt. And their purpose is to utilize the salt. As a result, what will happen? All the meat natural juices will come out in the liquid and the meat will become dry. So in case of wet marinade, don't add the salt. Or if you add the salt also, that should be very, very less. Better to avoid adding salt if you are going for a wet marinade, which will be kept in the refrigerator for some time. Clear? Another one variety is a dry marinades. This is also known as dry rub or BBQ means barbecue spices, and uses a variety of dried herbs and spices to pack even more flavor to your dry meat. From the name, it is very clear that dry ingredients, dry spices, combination of dry ingredients are used. Salt can be added to a dry marinade and works to break down the protein of the meat so that other flavors can be absorbed. Now, dry marinades never we keep the meat with the dry marinade in the refrigerator. We never mentioned that. So, dry marinade is basically instant marinade. You apply these spices on the both sides of the meat and put it on a pan or a griddle for cooking. Okay, before using a dry. Now, how to ensure that the dry marinades will mixture will stick to the meat? We'll ensure that the meat will be first coated with some lard or oil or water, little bit of water moisture, so that the marinade adheres better to the meat surface. So if you are going for a dry marinade, what will be your take? Take the meat, then apply some oil or lard or soak your hand in the water and just apply it on the meat to make it little moist. Then sprinkle the dry marinade mixture on both the sides and gently pat it with your palm. It will stick to the meat. None dry marinades and wet marinades, and then wet rub. This is another one variety. This is another one variety of marinade and is an excellent option for those who love to barbecue. Barbecue means open fire cooking. Okay. Wet rubs are paste that include Jamaican jerk seasoning and tomato based rubs, and you simply need to thoroughly coat the meat with a mixture of spices and herbs. This creates a thin layer of flavor on the meat before it is cooked. It is very similar type of our tandoori kebab making process. If you have observed this by this time, or if not, then now onward we can observe it in the different street side joints, standard joints of course, where the meat is marinated in a wet rub, wet mixture, and the meat is then put in a skewer and put it in the tandoor. This coat remaining on the meat will create the add on the flavor. Okay, that is a wet rub. Tips for better marination: acidic components. Ensure that your marinades include acidic components like buttermilk, yogurt, citrus juice, vinegar, or wine of different kinds to infuse flavor more effectively. So there should be some acidic components in your marination mixture. High smoke point, from which angle? About the using of oil. Add oils which has got high smoke points. Otherwise, whenever you will be grilling the steak, automatically the oil will get burned and it will give a very negative impression on the grilling of the meat. So take such kind of oil which has got high smoke point. Clear? Refrigerations. It is important to refrigerate marinated food to prevent dangerous bacteria growth and potential foodborne illnesses. That is very normal. However, avoid refrigerating for an extended period. So not for prolonged period of time. Why not? That already you have clarified that these acid will affect adversely on the quality tenderness of the meat. So for a specific period of time, why? To control the foodborne diseases, to control the quality, to retain the quality. Okay. Now the marination time. Each food has a recommended marination time. Is globally true. Meat can be marinated. Meat means I'm talking about the red meat out here. Meat can be marinated for 30 minutes to overnight. 30 minutes is the minimum. Poultry for 25 minutes to 2.5 hours maximum. Fish and seafood, they are soft, so they are 10 minutes, and vegetables for 10 to 25 minutes. There is a standard cooking marination time for this kind of products. Meat 30 minutes to overnight, poultry 25 minutes to 2.5 hours, fish and seafood for 10 minutes, and vegetables of different types 10 to 25 minutes. Clear? Usage of salt, already you have mentioned. Again, I am going to underline this by discussing it. Avoid using excessive salt in the marinade. That you know, salt is hydrophilic. It has got the tendency to attract water. More it will attract the water, the steak will become dry. It will be losing its natural juices and flavor, especially for the meat. Too much of salt can slow down the tenderizing process and prevent flavors from being absorbed. Am I clear? Because once the salt is there, salt will attract the moisture. So external wet mixture, whatever is there, that won't penetrate, won't be absorbed by the meat properly. So you should be very careful about the using of salt in the marinade. Avoid metal containers. Why? You must be knowing it better. It is advisable not to use metal containers for marination, as the acid in the marinade can react with the metal and affect the flavor. It is also unsafe to cook or consume such food. Clear? So you should be very careful about the container, and it is better to food grade steel container. It is better so that you will be having no reactions from the acid material. Clear? Now, meat is prepared, meat is marinated. Now we are going to use the grill to grill the meat. But before grilling, definitely as a chef, you should have a very clear cut knowledge about the grilling. So let us discuss on that. This is the grill in front of you. Now this kind of grill, you can see that it has got two sides. One is the corrugated side, other one is the flat surface. Normally, it has got two different kind of temperatures on two sides. You can see two knobs are there. On the corrugated side, the temperature is on the higher side. On the flatter surface, the temperature is on the lower side. And you have to adjust this. This griller can be of different kinds. It can be electrically heated griller. It can be gas operated griller. Or instead of these both, we can go for a charcoal griller as well. But basic construction of the griller will remain the same almost. Grill steak on a charcoal grill or gas grill, it is the heat that matters, not how you create the heat. First of all, it is clear. Second thing, get your grill ready to cook on high heat in one area and low heat in another area. That means two burners on high and one on low gas griller, or a three-zone cook for a charcoal griller. I'll clarify this little simpler. You can see this. This is the area which is on the borderline, having a control of high heat, and other one is a low heat. Why? Because first, the meat will be placed on the high heat side to sear the meat. Sear means I have mentioned already to seal the meat from outside and to create the grill mark. You can see this grill mark that is more classical and appetizing. So naturally, we should know how to create the grill mark. That's why the temperature should be on the higher side. And here, your intention is to cook the meat. So naturally, the temperature will be lower. Clear? Do let your grill preheat so that grates are hot when you add steaks. It has to be preheated. Once it in the right temperature you are setting, then only you can start grilling process, not before that. Before adding any food, we have to ensure that the grill is properly greased or oiled, and this is the process. We can take a tongue, you can take some kitchen cloth, take some oil and use to make these area well greased so that meat will not stick to the grill bars. Clear? Why? How to flip the steak while grilling? Carefully place steaks on the hot oil grill grates directly over the heat source. Sorry. Now the grilling is on. You can see that. Let us consider this a grill sidewise heat was attained, and we have placed the meat on the hot side of the griller. Grill is on. Now, how long to keep it in one side? The best thing to do to a steak on the grill is to leave it alone. After putting the steak on the griller, you are not going to disturb it. It has to be flipped in once, and don't poke, prod, or press it. Let the heat do all the work. By any chance, with the spoon, a flat spoon, or with the knife, or with the tongue, you are not going to flip it again, not going to poke the meat, not going to press the meat. Just put it on the desired temperature and keep it alone for a certain period of time. Why? More you press and more you prick the meat while grilling, it will start losing the natural juices. And once the natural juices are coming out from the steak due to overflipping or due to pressing or many other reasons I have mentioned, the steak will become dry. And once the steak is dry, that is known as the dead steak. Nobody will appreciate that kind of steak. So you should be very careful. Flip it once. Now the point is, flip the steak over once at about 60% of the total cooking time. If it takes 7 to 8 minutes for cooking, so 60% time it will be grilled from one side only. It is called a 60-40 rule, and it is going to help make sure your steak is evenly cooked. If you follow the 60-40, after 60% cooking, make it 40% from the other side, then only your steak will be properly grilled and evenly cooked. Now, out of grilling steak, we should know the science behind the grilling of steak. The reason that grilled steaks are so delicious, it has got two reasons, twofold reason. One is the grill flavorful outside. The steak should have a grill mark, flavorful outside, and the juicy inside. These two things are very, very much required for a grilled steak. That is a science. How to get that? Remember, we have mentioned that the griller should have two different kind of temperature. One is the higher side, high temperature side, which side is the corrugated one, grated one, and other side is the flat side. How the steak becomes brown? That is because of the Maillard reaction. We also call it a browning reaction. We create a darker color, the outer part of the meat becomes crisp, and the smoke flavor from the pan or the griller will be absorbed by the meat from the outside. That will give a very a different kind of mouth feel. That is why it is required and follow a 60-40 rule. Maillard reaction will be there to get the color, crispiness from outside and the smoky flavor outside. Okay. Steak doneness. We have used the word doneness, and I have told you also earlier that doneness is a level up to which the steak will be cooked, and it is always specified by the guest as per their choice it is cooked. Okay. The doneness of a steak is determined by the internal temperature of the beef steak. Okay. Use a high quality meat thermometer for reliable, accurate results and follow your steak doneness guide. In the modern cooking world, we can always use a steak thermometer and put it inside, and accordingly you should have a temperature chart. Accordingly, you should follow the temperature chart. Once you see that the inside part has attained that right temperature level, that means the steak is done. And what are the levels now? The steak can be cooked for a rare done. We call it a rare done steak. Temperature is 115 to 130 degrees Fahrenheit. A medium to rare done steak 130 to 140 degrees Fahrenheit. This temperature is very, very important. Should remember that a medium the steak should have a 140 to 150 degree Fahrenheit temperature. Remember, this is about the internal temperature. And medium well done, 150 to 160 Fahrenheit temperature, and well done, 160 degree Fahrenheit and above. So automatically here we are getting few doneness level of the steak. The guest may ask for a rare done steak, guest may ask for medium rare done, guest may ask for medium done, then may they ask for medium well done. Medium has got three different categories. You can see medium rare. That means it is one stage above than the rare done steak, and medium is one stage above than the medium rare done steak, and medium well done is one more stage, one more level above than the medium done steak. You can well understand that is the category is going higher, and finally you arrive to a well done steak, that is 160 degree Fahrenheit plus, that is the temperature level. Clear? Now, once the steak is grilled, let the steak rest. Point is why. The best griller take their steaks off the grill when they are about 5 degrees below the target temperature. Am I clear? You never cooking the steak entirely on the griller. When 5 degrees below the temperature, you remove the steak. Then let the steak sit, rest and breathe. That is a breathing time for the steak. Undisturbed, put it on a plate. What will happen? The steak's temperature will rise a few more degrees on the plate. And another important thing will happen, the juices will redistribute throughout the meat. What will happen? Because of the grilling process, there will be a movement among the water particles and the internal juices. They will all come to the surface of the meat while grilling. Whenever you are removing the steak and putting it on a plate for breathing, what will happen? That time internal temperature is rising, but outside temperature is no outside temperature because it is on a plate. So what will happen by this time? The water molecules and the internal juices which were running towards the surface of the meat, that will go back to the different places of the meat where it is dry. So automatically what will happen? Meat will remain juicy and soft. You don't need to eat steak blazing hot. Remember that. You are not going to consume the steak which is blazing hot. In fact, you don't want to. Take your time and slice your steak when you are good and ready. Normally, once the steak is served, it is already on a breathe point. They are in the kitchen. Now it is not having that steaming hot, blazing hot temperature. It is considerable enough just to slowly and carefully, very passionately cut the slice of the steak and consume. That is the art. Now let us get acquainted with the different doneness of steak in French. To know that, we should just recap one about our hand and different fingers. You can see in the image, we are having a thumb finger. Very next finger is the index finger. Then next to that is the middle finger. And next to that is the ring finger. And then finally we get a little finger. Very soon you'll understand why we need to remember this. First stage of the steak, which is known as oblong. What does it mean in English? Blue or very rare dull steak. In case of red meat, the meat juices will be dark red in color. That means it is almost in a raw stage of cooking. Just very slightly brown from outside. We can see this image. The meat is slightly brown from outside, The internal part is very pinkish and reddish in color. And if you cut the steak, you will see that the juices are coming out, which is dark red. That is known as a red done steak. In French, we call it au blanc. Then the next one is say no. Saying no means bleeding. It is a medium rare or underdone steak. Is of course one steak above this rare done, medium rare or underdone steak only for the red meat. The meat juices are red in color. Initially, remember it was a dark red in color. Now it has become red. Why? Heat has penetrated little more. You can see this. This is a medium rare done steak where the outer color is little more brownish. The internal color has become light pinkish, and in this case if you cut the steak, say no, then you'll get to see red juices are coming out, not dark red juices. That is, the changes happen due to the heat has penetrated little more inside. Now the third stage we will talk about, that is opuma. Opuma is medium or just done steak. For red meat and gents, the juices are pink. Now, initially, once again, I will tell you to notice. Initially, in the reactant stage, it was a dark red color of juices. In a bleeding stage or China stage, is a red color, and now aqua means a pink color. Now, one more thing, just I have missed out. I will just go back to the first one. Now, here, look at this image. It has got some relationship with that. How to understand the feel of the steak? In your left hand, if your thumb finger tip and the index finger tip you are touching, and you can get to see the pad area below the thumb finger. This is the area. If you touch it with the other hand, other finger, you'll get a feel of the flesh, and that is the texture or feeling if you touch a rare dal steak. Okay. Now, second one, say no, or the bleeding stage. There, you go to the next finger. That means the index finger and thumb finger. You just both the tips will be touched, and then you feel this pad area. That will be the firmness of the steak, which is on a bleeding stage or medium rare stage. Clear? Now, third point, Apua. If you take the ring finger and thumb finger and touch them as it is shown in the figure, and if you see the area, the thumb finger, below that thumb finger, the area, that feel is the feel of a upper steak. In upper steak, you can see the red juices are not red now, it is a pink color juices. It has become light pink also, and browning of the outer part has become little more dense or dark or deep because it is exposed to it for longer time. Clear? And the last stage is known as biakui. Biakui means well cooked or well done. For any grilled item, the meat juices are clear and light. That means it is the final stage of cooking. Starting with the red done, then reaching to the well done stage. And here you can see, first let's see this image. You can see this meat is the well done stage. The outside part is much darker in color. Inside part is light brown in color. There is no residue of the pink color. And in this case, if you cut the steak, the juices will come out that will become absolutely clear and transparent. And what is the feeling of the steak from if you touch? If you take your little finger and thumb finger keeps touching like this in the image. Now then you fill this area, the pad, the fleshy area below the thumb finger, and that is the feeling. If you feel with the other finger, that will be the feeling of, sorry, well done steak. Clear? This image is given to give you the idea that as a chef, he should have a thorough knowledge about the art of grilling. So now your steak is ready, rest it for some time and give it to the guest. So we have discussed very important aspect of art of grilling. And we have, if you remember, we have discussed all the points we have mentioned in the agenda in the beginning. And now, this lesson, if you go through it repeatedly as per your free time, you will having a very, very fair and transparent knowledge in your mind. So thank you very much for the timing for attending this session. You use this as your referral class. Anytime, any moment, anywhere you can take this reference. And very importantly, your valued comment is my asset. So please do give your comment in the comment box so that I get to know about the standard of the class, about your doubts. I'll clarify it, and I'll be able to give my best in the next session once I know my shortcomings. Clear? Very soon we'll be having the part 5 of mid basic with another one interesting area. By any chance, if you have liked this session, don't forget to press the button, share it with your friends, get the alarm, get subscribe it, and definitely very soon we'll be back. I'm committed with you that I'll be back with another one exciting lesson of mid basic part 5. Till then, thank you very much. Take care. Bye bye.